Hey everyone, today we are going to discuss a flow chart. It's actually a process diagram. The flow chart below shows the recycling procedure of glass bottles. So it is a recycling procedure of glass bottles here. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So when we go ahead with this particular thing, this is not a classical task one. Here, this is a flow chart. We don't have figure comparisons here. We don't have any numbers to compare. There are no statistical data here. So it's comparatively easy. So this is a flow chart. Actually, this is a process diagram too. So we have arrows here. So it shows the process, how the process goes on. So it is the recycling procedure of glass bottles. Now I just want to make sure how many steps are there and what is the strategy to do this thing. The strategy is different here when compared to graph. It's a graphical language, but here it is sequence. The sequential words, the vocabulary which represents the sequence is something which we need here. See, for example, I go with first or firstly, secondly, then, after that, then after, subsequently, consequently, eventually, ultimately, simultaneously. All these things are sequential words which are very vital here in our flowchart or in our process diagram. So here, if you see, we have step number one, that is collection of glass bottles from public. This happens as a separate stage, and in another venue we are going to classify it, and we are breaking the glass. This is the second area, main area. The last area is melting the glass and making new bottles. So actually, we do have three specific, three major features here. So that's we call, so selecting and reporting the main features. These three are the main features here. Number one, number two, and number three. So comparisons, in the sense we are going ahead with the sequential words here in this particular task one. That's it. So let's see how it works out. So Here is the introduction and here is a question. Let's see how it is different. Here this is a question and this is the introduction. The flow chart below shows the recycling procedure of glass bottles. Various stages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, various stages. In the process of recycling glass are sequenced, number 1, 2, 3, 4, it's sequenced in the given process diagram or in the given flow chart. If you want to say in particular, it is in flow chart. At a glance, as an overview, overall, it is clear from the picture that the process begins from the collection of bottles from the public and ends with the manufacturing of new bottles. We are not telling that this is something, a complex process, a simple process, or something else, because we are not going, we don't have enough data whether it's complex or not. I don't know exactly, I cannot make it out. So it's a recycling, glass recycling. So it may be complex sometimes, it may be simple sometimes, it may be costly sometimes, but I cannot make out that from this particular picture. So I've said that the process begins from this stage and the process ends at this stage. Now, if I go further, as per the picture, in the first step, this is the first step, green, brown, and clear bottles are collected from the public by various means. So you can say green, brown, and clear bottles collected from the public by various means. I don't know which way they collect. So I have said that various means. And are transported to the processing plant. So this is a transportation. I don't know whether it is transported by truck or some other means. Anyway, it is transported to the processing plant. It is transported to the processing plant. Okay. In the plant, inside the plant, what happens? The bottles with metal caps and plastic caps are separated. So the bottles with metal caps and plastic caps are separated in the processing plant. So separation is the process number 1 in the processing plant. Okay. Now, after removing the caps are removed. If any, sometimes if you see that there won't be caps, if metal caps are there, metal caps will be removed. If you see the bottles, some of the metal caps will be removed. Usually if you drink a bottle of soda, a bottle of beer or something, if it is covered by a metal cap, usually it is removed. So normally we won't see the metal caps, and normally we won't see the plastic caps there. And if there is any, it is removed. The next step is processing plant. Next step in the processing plant is breaking the glass into smaller pieces. So the glass is broken into smaller pieces there. So I told that the metal caps and plastic caps, this is segregated And then if there is any caps, we'll remove it. And then it is broken. Now, I move on to the next particular paragraph. The next major step happens in the factory. The next major steps happen in the factory. It is not in the processing plant. It is happening in the factory. The next major step happens in the factory once the broken glass reaches there. The broken glass, glasses are broken in the processing plant, and it is transferred to the factory. In the factory, the next major step happens. What's that? It is the process of melting the glass and other raw materials to 1200 degrees Celsius. And it is in the furnace. In the furnace, you are melting glass and raw materials to a temperature of 1200 degrees Celsius. The molten mixture is then used to make new bottles of various size, shape, and color. So this all happens in the glass factory. So my explanation is over in two particular paragraphs. So I have got the introduction, the overview, and two specific paragraphs. So this is number one, number two. Hope you have understood this particular task one. Thank you. So what we need to do, remind ourselves is that we need to understand the sequential words here, like firstly, secondly, thirdly, eventually, ultimately, subsequently, consequently. Okay, all these things. Next, then, after, all these things are very important in this particular type of task one. It's very different from classical task one, where we need to compare numbers. So no numbers here. Here we are focusing on these things. And now the tense here we need to use is the present simple tense. It's not any other tense. It's a process. So the process continues, and it is not happening in the past. It's not happening. It is happening. It happened in the past. It is happening in present, and it will be happening in the future. So that's what we call it as a process. So process, we use a habitual action. We use simple present tense. So the tense we have to use here is present simple tense. So that's what you have to remain, sequential words and the tense, the classification, the sequence is well explained here. Thank you one and all.